Thanks for listening to the Pop Culture Cosmos and the PCC Multiverse. Check out more great podcasts today on one of these awesome affiliate networks.
You're listening to a Weeby Geeks Network podcast.
You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
The Tangibound Network. Check it out. TangiboundNetwork.com. Listen to this show, the latest episode, every time.
A proud member of the Gonna Geek Network. The opinions expressed are those of each individual. Check out all the other geeky podcasts over at GonnaGeekNetwork.com and get ready, because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1.
On this week's episode, there's good news this year in pop culture. Are you ready to suit up for another Magic Mike? And what's the deal with Warhammer? All this and more as we reach our next stop, the PCC Multiverse.
Don't be alarmed. The quasi-shimmering light before you is a trans-dimensional gateway to other worlds, other voices, other thoughts, and other realities. Up feels like down, and down feels like the number 7 on a Wednesday morning. Don't worry. That quivering, blood-boiling sensation under your eyebrows is all a part of the charm. Welcome to the PCC Multiverse.
And we're back with another episode of the PCC Multiverse. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our shows. And if you can, please give us a 5. I almost feel like doing the wave sometimes. 5. 5.
Oh, sorry.
5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, Lakers Fast Break, Game Source, Vampires and Vitae. Plus, we are the #1 tabletop RPG streamer on Facebook. So if you can, catch any one of our just tremendous games that we have each and every week, whether it's Roger, whether it's Robbie, whether it's Melinda, whether it's Mitch, whether it's any one of our great games that we have going on. Hopefully we can get Victor to get some more games on our channel as well. It is greatly appreciated. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without some good friends joining me on today's program. It's our usual co-host sitting in the co-host chair, along with her significant other and also her compadre on many a tabletop RPG game, plus also her partner in crime every Monday on the Demolition Force that we all tag team up on and give Roger a hard time.
Just the point.
Yes. Well, they are my good friends. It is Melinda and Rob. Melinda Barkhouse and Robbie Ross. Great to have you both here. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. This would be my first time on your show. So thank you, first of all, for...
No. Last week you were on.
This is true. Made a little Easter egg appearance.
It's true. And you have been a voice off to the side a few times as well.
Well,
That's wrong. Melinda.
Yeah, right? Yeah. That's not how that works.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, we are going to have a great show. It isn't a jam-packed pop culture week, so we had to kind of dig a little bit for some nuggets of good pop culture things. One of the things that we're going to be looking at over the course of this month, as we end 2021, are good news items this year in pop culture. Robbie and Melinda already came up with a couple of good ideas, and one of the things I also want to talk about is Marvel's return to television in the form of Disney Plus. So we're going to talk about how impactful that has been. That's going to come up later in the program. Plus, Melinda and Rob, they might be having a little bit of a evil eye act going on when we talk about some Magic Mike 3. Could that be in the works? We'll find out coming up here in the program.
I cannot exactly blame you if you think Magic Mike is an attractive male. I think that the world understands
and agrees. Yeah.
Plus, also Warhammer. What is Warhammer? What's Warhammer 40K? What's all this deal about Warhammer? And why should you care? Our resident expert, Robbie Ross, is here today to explain to you and give you the hard sell on why Warhammer is the thing you got to get more interested into.
So you want me to be crucified in the comments?
Something like that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But first up, you two, I wanted to go ahead and give props to Hawkeye, the series. I know the series is not, according to the latest numbers or projections that's out there, not doing as well as the previous Marvel TV efforts, which I think just lends to the fact that when I was on the MCU's Bleeding Edge, that some of the guests were very receptive of the series. Some of the guests were like, why should I care? Because Hawkeye has been, over the course of the past decade, a character which not everybody loves, not everybody appreciates. The fact that the guy has really no superpowers other than he can shoot an arrow really good, why should we care? Well, this series is really trying to make you care about the character, along with some many other things that it's trying to do. But I want to hear first your thoughts, Melinda and Rob. Either which one of you go first. It doesn't matter. Your thoughts on Marvel's Hawkeye.
Well, I think we need a Hawkeye character because we need to understand the base human line for what humans are capable of. And then you have everybody with their superpowers on top of that. So I think that giving the human with the incredible talent for shooting arrows well, as it has been said.
He makes arrows too. He makes arrows
okay,
too.
He makes them as well. There's definitely room to expand that character more. And I'm glad that he has a series and I'm glad that it's delving a little bit more into his story. I think he's a very interesting character. I just don't know that he's been utilized all of the correct ways.
I agree with you on that. I also think that Jeremy Renner, I like him as an actor. I appreciate the Hawkeye character. He's actually my favorite adventure, but trying to sell him to the outside world has been hard because he himself is a low-key actor. Even when he's in leading roles, he's kind of low-key. He's not animated. He's not, the personality doesn't really emote out there. But with the passing of the torch to Haley Steinfeld, the next 10 years for the Hawkeye character could be vastly different. And I think that's what one of the main goals of this series is. It's trying to do so many things. Trying to get you more familiar with the life of the current Hawkeye, but get you set up for the next Hawkeye, plus introduce or reintroduce some characters that's been hinted upon here in the past couple episodes. Like, for instance, Echo, who's going to get her own series next year, maybe early 2023.
I think that sounds a lot of fun.
Yeah, she looks like a great character. Obviously, what's going on with the possible Madame Mask, the possible swordsman, the Kingpin has been hinted upon. You got to see his arm giving a kid Echo, like the little tap right there on the cheek from Uncle Kingpin.
Sure.
Sorry, not Sinister at all, right?
Yeah, right.
Yes. Well, Vincent D'Onofrio has not been shy about hinting that his return is imminent into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that's something I think a lot of people are really liking, which means the Daredevil is not going to be too far behind. In fact, in a couple of weeks, we might actually see the Daredevil. Yes. So we're getting prepared for that. But
I think the Daredevil itself is one of, talk about going straight to TV to Marvel. I think Daredevil is one of the most positive takes on the character. I mean, Ben Affleck did a good job. I enjoyed that. I didn't exactly enjoy the introduction of, was it Elektra that they brought in? Yeah, during that one. But I think that when they truly succeeded on the WB was with the Daredevil series,
You mean on Netflix?
Yes, sorry, Netflix. But when it comes to like Hawkeye and people not really getting the character, that was us. I mean, like that was the actual audience member. Like we kind of rode with him.
Yes.
He even makes a great line of like, none of this makes sense. I'm a guy that's shooting arrows against monsters. I mean, that's a paraphrase, but I mean, like, yes, none of this makes sense. I'm surrounded by people that should definitely be here. And I'm the guy that doesn't fit. So I think that kind of ingratiated, at least myself, to that particular character. Also, I think that critics and even the user critics, they're not looking at this show correctly. This is supposed to be a holiday show. It's Christmas based. You know what I mean? It's episodical. So this is something that you can watch over the holidays with your family and have an episodic experience with a Disney Christmas spin with one of the most relatable and human characters that are in the MCU. So I think that if you look at it through that gaze and not through an Avenger ending event, you know what I mean? Like you're not expecting aliens to come out of the sky and take over the world and Thanos to show up. Instead, if you look at it more of a personal journey, which he's always had, I mean, look at his heartbreak, his family disappearing. The first thing that you are really sad about him, that moment was huge.
The snap.
Yeah, right. Like the beginning of the snap. And even though that the movie before it really did a great job with, like Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good, or, all that kind of pieces, all that emotion. And instead of losing an Avenger, we lost a family.
And you saw how it turned him
Yeah.
and created the monster known as Ronan as
Right.
he went out. I wouldn't say monster, but I would say vigilante per se, creating his own justice in the world, going out after organized crime and all those individual evil people out there in the real world of our human world that survived the snap and allowed him to go ahead and say, you know what, I have nothing to live for. My family has already been snapped. So you know what? I'm going to go and make your lives miserable and take you down with me if I have to. So you see that effects. I love the fact that they're connecting or trying to connect these dots at least a little bit to it. So I'm glad to see it. I personally am liking this series. It's getting a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's got, a certified fresh. So it is one of the better, I guess, appreciated critic wise, as far as is concerned, of the 4 series that has come to Marvel and Disney Plus. So I'm appreciating from that standpoint. Again, from the popularity standpoint, it's not being ingratiated according to the early numbers as well as the other 3 series, which is a kind of a shame because, again, this is the most human, this is the most relatable story of these 4 that we have. I mean, these fantastical stories of these superheroes, these other 3, like you said, I mean, that's the world we always fantasize about, but it's the real human story of Hawkeye that is so out there. It's been waiting to be told, and now it's kind of being told, and now not enough people, I think, are buying into it, which is a shame because, again, this is such a great story, and such a great way to tell it. And the fact that
it's also something that we all can relate to as being a hero in your own world. Like, I'm just trying to get home for Christmas. That's the basis. You know what I mean?
And I was just going to actually bring that up. We just wait until that week between Christmas and New Year's where everybody is actively avoiding going to see family again. Right. And you're just going to stay home and binge some Hawkeye between the holidays coming up.
Because it's beautifully produced. The show's, I mean, like, it's graphically exceptionally pleasing.
Yeah.
I think it's going to end up being, once Christmas gets closer, the holiday event that everyone, I just think it's just too early. We're like, you already get the Lifetime movies coming on right now. And I roll my eyes when my mom's watching one of them. I'm like, oh God, really? It already starts.
Sirius XM Holly Channel's been playing in our car much to my chagrin for the past month anyway.
But this will be a fresh take. How many episodes do you know for sure?
3.
No.
6.
Six total. So that means that gives you 6 little mini movies that are completely different. If you're not a fan of holiday movies, I think it's kind of like
it's Die Hard. It's a very Die Hard motif.
That's exactly where I was going. It's a holiday movie for people that want to see something that is holiday-ish, even though Bruce Willis will not agree with us.
Die Hard is the best Christmas movie ever. That's already been on our show. That's my vote. That's why Josh and I went back and forth on this last year.
Yep.
Check that out, please, if you can.
There's reasons why we're friends, Gerald. I mean, I completely agree with you. Bruce Willis be damned. It's a Christmas movie. Like, it's I think that's what's going to happen. And I think it just takes people getting ready to watch Christmas movies, because, like, I don't watch Christmas movies until the week of Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to sit down. I mean, even great movies like The Grinch, or, you know what I mean? Like, or
Elf.
Elf, Jingle All the Way. Those movies, those feel-good movies. Like, I don't watch any of those until a week before Christmas. So I think the populace demand and response to it is going to be much different coming up into those holidays. And like Melinda said, I think they're going to binge.
Yeah.
They're waiting for it.
And with the way Disney Plus actually releases their episodes in their episodic structure, where they release it in a traditional week-by-week format, as opposed to the oftentimes Netflix style. Netflix seems to have its own rules based on whatever show that they're doing. Sometimes they'll release all of it out there. Sometimes they'll release it week by week. Nobody seems to know what they're doing as far as what Netflix is up to next. But, it's worked for Netflix so far, so you can't really argue with their success. But when it comes to Disney Plus, the fact that they don't have as much content to draw from that's new and fresh, when something like this comes along, they're trying to go ahead and keep your interest out over the course of the next 6 weeks or 5 weeks in this case, because they put the first 2 episodes up. I'm liking what I'm seeing. Again, this series is a show that has so much it needs to do. It needs to tell Jeremy Renner's story. It needs to tell Haley Steinfeld's story. Plus, it needs to initiate you to so many other characters that we're seeing. It's really hard to do, but yet I find, Melinda, that it's really doing this job well so far. Don't you?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that the show is going to accomplish all of the things that it needs to accomplish. I think that I think it's a victim of the time of year and how busy people are right now. And I really do think that push as we get closer to the holidays, when you're sitting at home, maybe avoiding doing some chores or avoiding cooking that fruitcake, you'll sit down and watch some Hawkeye.
That's kind of
instead.
the problem, though. There's not 6 weeks of Christmas. There's only 4 weeks of Christmas. So...
Correct, but there is 7 days between Christmas and New Year's.
So you think they should have just staggered it day by day? Like,
no. I think that they're doing it right. They're releasing it, and then by the time we're ready to sit down and binge it,
you get all of it. Here's a good question for you, Gerald. What do you think the response would have been, because they got 6 episodes, if they just would have done the 6 days leading up to Christmas?
Like
I
started
think
on
that would have been actually the best
19th.
way to do it. You have a streaming platform that is devoid of fresh content. I mean, you released a lot of content on, what was it, Disney Plus Day, and that was great, but you don't have much behind it. I mean, you've had The Beatles Get Back is the major release after Disney Plus Day, and that's been it so far.
And that's just for the parents too. That's not even for the kids. You're cutting out half the platform.
Exactly, because it has smoking, which is bad for you. You know, got to know. And then it also has some language and mature themes, according to Disney, which is really bad. Yes.
Well,
Netflix just throws it out there. Netflix is just so funny because it just throws it out there and says, don't let the kids watch it, but it's there. So with Netflix, though, they're trying to fight this uphill battle, but one of Netflix's main advantages, because they just have a sheer amount of content. I mean, we've talked about the Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime, but what else right now is going on Amazon Prime? We talked about certain things on HBO Max, and obviously The Matrix Resurrections is coming up. That's going to be day and date to
that's
HBO
their
Max
hallmark
theaters.
right now.
But what else do they have right now that's coming along with it? Peacock, same thing. Saved by the Bell. Everybody's talking about this next series, this next season, and all that. But what's coming up behind that? That's the thing with all these other ones. But with Netflix, I mean, Melinda, every single week we were talking about something. One or 2 or 3 things when it comes to Netflix. That's the advantage that they have.
Series. Their anime has just gone through the roof, and they're doing all I mean, like they've pretty much reinvented the voice actor genre. I mean, the COVID happened. They're just like, no, people can't go, people can't work. We already have all these incredible anime shows. Let's just the voice actors can do this at home. They gotta look at all of us. I mean, like, and we're not pros, so like, if you can have a pro with a pro setup, they can do all the work at home, and you can just push out series after series after series.
But you wanted to talk about why Disney Plus is doing the things that they're doing. That's the reason. They just don't have enough fresh content that they can throw at you. That's why they're doing something like the Hawkeye that they're doing over the course of the next 5 weeks. And that's something, again, that hopefully people will appreciate. But it is Hawkeye on Disney Plus. We're liking what we see so far, but do you like what you see so far from Disney's Hawkeye? Please let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com.
Hey, this is Chad from Ghost Toasters, and you're listening to Pop Culture Cosmos Podcast.
So let me get this straight. We're going to play a video game together, or?
Well, not exactly.
Okay, fine. Where's the controller?
It's right here.
This is literally a sheet of paper. I don't understand what
Here, you're going to need these 2.
Dice? Are these even dice?
We are going to play Vampire the Masquerade. It's a role-playing game. What kind of vampire do you want to be?
Okay, now you're telling me there's more than one kind of vampire?
Oh, my friend, you have no idea. There's Nosferatu, there's Vampires and Vitae, an actual play podcast. Season 2 to Pop Culture Cosmos.
Well, there's still much more to talk about on today's program. Uh-oh. I feel the end of a marriage coming on because rumors have now become valid. Director Steven Soderbergh, some great movies under his belt. I just want to go ahead and make sure to let everybody know that yes, besides Magic Mike, he has a ton of great works under his belt. He and
it's a legitimately good movie. It's just a lot of gyration.
Yes, there is a lot of gyration. Yes,
It's heartfelt sentiment, but we've had that before.
It actually is a good movie. If people get a chance to see the original Magic Mike, it is actually a pretty good movie. I mean, that's the reason why it stuck, is because of the fact that not only is the content of the fact, yes, they do gyrate, and I know that a lot of ladies go out there and enjoy what they're seeing, and they actually my wife's they've actually gone out as parties and going to go see the first two movies.
Oh yeah, I was offered the job to be the bartender at Magic Mike.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it really was.
And why did that happened?
They're like, we'll hire you in 2 months and we'll do a personal trainer, blah blah blah, but like you have to stop essentially eating anything you like for the next 2 months. And I was like, oh, man, I'm a good enough bartender to get a job most places in Vegas. So, and also I was dating the wife at the time. I'm like, you know what? You can open the door to opportunity, but sometimes you just show it to misery. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not a good scenario.
You're talking about Magic Mike's here in Vegas.
Yeah, the Magic Mike.
Yes. I was going to say, if you pass up a bartender gig on the actual movie set, I'd be like,
yeah, then we would be having a very different kind of conversation.
Yeah, there's a show in Vegas called Magic Mike. It's a male review, and they were looking for a bar manager at the time. I come with 20 years of experience, so the interview was great. They're like, yeah, you just got to get in Magic Mike shape. We'll help you out. And I'm like, this is just a bad idea. This is just a bad idea.
But the problem is, not only you have to get in that shape, you have to stay in that shape.
Yeah.
That's
right?
really hard to do, because that requires log. And I think that's something that, maybe Channing Tatum, reason why that they haven't done a Magic Mike 3, unless they actually got a good story with him and Steven Soderbergh, was the fact that you have to do so much in order to
make it worth it for him.
Someone like Kevin Nash, who in the professional wrestling world has been retired now for over a decade, but yet one of his famous movie roles is in Magic Mike 1 and 2. Yeah. And ask him now in his mid 50s, if he does return, to go ahead. Okay, we want you to go ahead and do something like that's hard. That's hard, because all these guys, most of these actors that have been part of the series, they're now in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. And it's really hard to ask this, but it is Magic Mike 3. I'm assuming they're going to introduce some new characters as well, with some new abs, I'm sure, that to go along with it.
I just hope that everybody's D&D daddy, Joe Manganiello, comes back.
Right.
We'll see on that. Maybe he's been playing too many D&D games.
I highly doubt that.
D&D.
Oh, really? Do you?
Snacks are always on the table for D&D, so...
Yeah, I'm sure he's eating celery sticks and carrots. I would highly doubt that he's pulling out chocolate chip cookies and donuts.
He does have to keep up with his wife, and that's a lot to keep up with.
Absolutely.
So.
Okay, so your thoughts, Melinda, on this? And remember, your husband is sitting right next to you.
Yeah, and if he was here or not, I would say the same thing. I don't know that we need a third Magic Mike movie. But
the first two have made money. It's this series. There's been a long gap between Magic Mike 2 and 3, not because of the fact that it's money, because both were profitable. The first two were very profitable, and first one actually earned a lot of acclaim as one of the best movies that came out that year.
Yeah,
and Magic Mike 2 was very positively received. So it's not an issue of money. I think it's just an issue of finding the right plot, plus also getting these characters to go ahead and get into that kind of shape. Just like what Rob was talking about as far as working locally for Magic Mike here in Vegas. It's really hard to get and stay in that shape.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? If you're going to make millions of dollars off of it, your butt better get to the gym and put down that donut.
Oh, if they were like, yo, Rob, you're going to make $1 million bartending, I'm sure as well have eaten boiled chicken and broccoli from now to whenever they told me I'm not going to make millions of dollars. Like, yes. I mean, I think there is a very large difference, but I mean, like, you can't just look at Magic Mike for its like sex appeal. I mean, think about the movie Showgirls. Is Showgirls just about sex appeal, or is Showgirls like a very in-depth ideal of what it would be to work in a dancing community? You know, I mean, I think that's a great illusion in between the two of them, because you look at Showgirls.
Have you seen Showgirls?
Oh, yeah, of course. It was one of the first times I got to see something unblurred on the on the thing. Like,
so bad.
Yeah, well, it's true, but I mean, like, but I actually thought that there was a lot in there. I don't think it was just sex appeal. I thought that it was, some actual writing behind it. You could find
Paul Verhoeven's a great director.
Yeah,
but some of his work really gets lost because, like, for instance, with Showgirls, I think Showgirls just had some bad acting, to be quite honest with you.
Well, they brought in a big name from Saved by the Bell, and You know,
She has so much fun with it. They had fun with it on a recent episode of Saved by the Bell where they were all
really?
talking. Yeah, they were referring to it. Yeah. It's because it's become such a cult classic.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, maybe that's where my love comes from, because it is a cult classic. I mean, but you can have something that is sexually explicit, but still really, really in touch with like a base storyline. And I think that's where the beauty of like Magic Mike, like 1 comes from. Because it's a good story that just happens to be in a more raunchy setting.
Yeah.
But
the classic stripper with a heart of gold story.
yeah, I mean, it's been but that's what the tango is based on.
Yeah.
I mean, if a dance that rocked the entire world from that much time can be about exactly that, then there's something there. I mean, it's just an old story, it's an old profession, it's an old ideal. So that means that we should give it the relevance that it deserves. But when it comes to Magic Mike 3, it's a bit of a cash grab. You know what I mean? Like, it really is. There's a reason that the actor from 300 didn't come back, because he just couldn't. He couldn't do it on his body. You know what I mean? Like, Unitas, yes, he was dead, but he doesn't come back in any, flashbacks or things that they said to him. He's like, I can't do it anymore.
Gerard Butler.
Yes, yeah. I just can't possibly do it. My knees won't let me lift up the weight that I personally, my mind wants me to lift. Like, I just can't physically get there. And Unitas is a very famous and beloved character, because what they brought on the screen was just beautiful. I mean, talk about a graphic novel coming to life in your face, especially for the time period that it was put out in. And he's like, no, because I want them to leave with a memory of me like that. Now, I wonder if Chatham has that same fear. You know what I mean? Like, yes.
No.
Well,
I don't think he does.
It's tongue in cheek, and no, it's not as nearly as artistic or whatever as something like 300.
Plus, I think he's also at a crossroads in his career, because when was the last time he really did something? I think he did Dog now, which is getting some acclaim here.
He was just in Free Guy.
Was he just in Free Guy?
Yeah, briefly.
Briefly, yeah, but he's.
Oh, okay. That might have been part, because remember, I fell asleep in that movie, watching that movie 3 times, so I did finally finish it. So I may have missed that part. It just wasn't as endearing to me. Ryan Reynolds PG-13, it's a hard deal for me. Yeah, Ryan Reynolds rated R is great. Ryan Reynolds PG-13 is a different story.
True.
Speaking of what we were talking about with Showgirls, please do not make a rehash of Showgirls.
No,
that is not the Paul Verhoeven thing you want to make.
I was just
Starship Troopers, yes.
Oh, please.
Showgirls, no. Yeah, just wanted to make sure that's clear.
I love that no one realized that Starship Troopers was supposed to be satirical. They all took it as like for years.
I didn't. I thought it was great then, and I thought it was
great film. It's a great film.
Absolutely think this is a movie. That's something that needs to be redone, but that's another topic for another day. But it is Magic Mike 3. Hopefully, will not end any marriages whenever it finally comes out. Especially this one between Melinda and Rob. So we'll see what happens. I know my wife is already starting the party to go ahead and check out the movie. I'm sure at some point when it does come out in the future.
Well, Gerald, here's a question for you.
Oh, here we go.
Like, okay, so they made
buckle up.
Yeah, they made 3 Shades of Grey, right? And the book is not very good. Like I mean, like,
and the movies are critically just lambasted, but that didn't stop people from going, because
that's what I was going. It's become a thing. It's a bunch of people that are into that particular setting get together. They go out and have cocktails. They go watch the movie. I mean, like it's built as a vehicle for cash. It's not built for a vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, Red Notice. Red Notice is the all-time leading movie, most popular movie ever on Netflix now. Yeah. And it did in such fast. Is it a great movie? Absolutely not. It is one of the most reviled movies of the year.
Yeah, but it's also has 3 of the most charismatic people ever to grace.
They're just the reason why they're acting like they're just cashing in a paycheck, Rob.
Oh yeah.
But it, is it the people didn't care. They wanted to go see three famous actors, 3 headliners on there. That's great. That's what they did. The Tomorrow War on Amazon Prime.
Oh, yeah.
Why did that do so well? That was something that people thought was going to be a movie that they wanted as an event movie and a popcorn flick. Is the movie terrible? Beyond all description. But that didn't stop millions and millions of people.
Plot makes how much sense? Like, 0 cents.
Yeah, don't get me started. Well, actually, you know what? That's
I'm the odd man out because I enjoyed the movie.
Well, okay, Melinda. Then you and I are going to be having discussion later this year on the best and worst of 2021.
My movie taste is all in my mouth. What can I say?
Well, the best and worst in 2021 is coming up later this year, so definitely we're going to discuss that if that's the case. But yes, it is Magic Mike 3. It's coming to a theater, probably 2023, I'll probably say, because of the current climate we're in. I don't see a 2022, but I say a 2023 could be a feasible thing. So let me hear your thoughts out there. If you're ready to go ahead and watch the shaking even more in Magic Mike 3, please let us know. Pop Culture Cosmos.
Can I get that visual one more time, Gerald?
Shaking right now. I'm shaking. Well, coming up after the break, Rob is going to sit us down and send us to class because class will be in session. What class is that? It's a class in Warhammer. He's going to go ahead and give us the whole synopsis on why you need to become a Warhammer fan. And what's the deal with Warhammer anyways? We'll find out, and also some good news in pop culture for 2021. This is the PCC Multiverse.
And if you're ready to talk toys, I haven't stopped talking toys. Let's get to it. It's the Jay and Rob Toy Show, and we're back for season 2 for 10 more episodes of toy talking goodness. And this time we talk Marvel figures, we talk DC figures, holy grails, play sets, what if scenarios, and so much more. But we're not alone. We've brought a few friends with us this time. All that and of course our action figure spotlight. So check out the Jay and Rob Toy Show Season 2, exclusively on Jinx Esports TV Canada.
And we're back with the PCC Multiverse. It's Gerald Glassford, along with my good friends and compadres on many of a journey that we take each and every month, each and every week, right here at the #1 tabletop RPG streamer on Facebook. That is the Pop Culture Cosmos. Plus, also, if you go to Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook, you will not only see the tremendous Vampires and Vitae, which they do and produce, which you got to go ahead and catch wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, also as well, you got to catch them trying to go ahead and make Roger's life miserable every Monday, which we all try to do on the Demolition Force. Plus, Rob himself gets a headache on camera as he goes ahead and guides everybody on his whimsical one-shot on Tuesdays. Yes, he had a full head of hair when he started. And then also...
That was before our last game of Vampires and Vitae. I think I stumped him a couple times.
There you go. And then also guiding Melinda as well, helping her out, stressing her out on her adventures as well. You want to go ahead and check that out each and every week on Pop Culture Cosmos. Plus, we also drop the latest news and trends in pop culture right there on Facebook. So just go ahead, give us a like right there, and then follow everything, and then we give you the links. Plus, catch Vampires and Vitae, again, wherever you get your podcasts. All right, we're here. It's something that we've been talking about behind the scenes for quite some time. So I am a little bit familiar with the Warhammer series.
Okay.
I'm also a little bit familiar with the Warhammer 40K series.
Okay.
But people out there, I think, either don't have a great knowledge of it, or don't have any knowledge of it, because it seems like this series is kind of niche. This series, both of them are kind of out there. I receive press clippings and press notes from Warhammer and Warhammer 40K, things, products, games, you name it, anything relating to either of those IPs, seemingly every week, because seemingly something pops up every week. But the Warhammer and Warhammer 40K properties are I don't want to say they're big. I'm saying this in respectful fashion. I don't want to say they're huge, but they have their audience. But it's a niche audience. I want to know your thoughts on this. Am I wrong in saying that? Because the fact is, it's not mainstream, in my opinion. I want to know why it isn't, and just basically what's it all about, and can it get to that point? So I'm going to throw all this stuff at you and let you do the whole rest of the talking. Let you and Melinda, if she's got an opinion on it as well, obviously interject in, of course, as much as you want. But tell us all about why people should care about Warhammer and Warhammer 40K.
Well, you say that it's niche, and it's definitely right. But the only reason that it's niche is because of the volume of actual.
No, that's just the popularity. That's what I want to. If it's not a general mainstream, you cannot compare it to Marvel. You cannot compare it to a DC
Like when, like what niche used to be would be like, oh, I'm into Lord of the Rings, right? And you had these 3 Bible-sized books that you would go through.
But then the movies happened, and now they're mainstream.
Now it's accessible, and everyone at that point was like, "Oh man, reading Lord of the Rings was it's a triumph." Like, you put it on your bookshelf, you're like, yeah. And then if you're really into it, you got the Silmarillion, and then people would come over and be like, "Oh, you've read the Silmarillion?" And be like, "Yeah." They'd be like, "Oh wow, you don't just have the book, you actually read it?" And be like, "Yes." And then things like Harry Potter came out, which were 7-book series. You know what I mean? Like, so it started training people to read a little bit more.
I don't think that was niche for very long, though. I think that blew up right away.
That blew up real quick because it also was timed up perfectly for the youth that was coming up, but you still had to walk yourself through. You know what I mean? Like, you had to do the 7 books to really have it. If you weren't a reader, you could do the compendium with the movies and get pretty much all that you needed. So like that was a huge thing. And then you have like the Dark Tower guys that are like, "Oh, really? 7 books? So you want to have a conversation about what it is to invest into a series? Here's that." Then you had
Wheel of Time,
which was like the end all be all. You could have a nerd story with anybody, and you finally, if you're one of the nerds in the group and you're like, "Yeah, but have you done Wheel of Time?" Everyone was like, "No one does the Wheel of Time." That's 14 books, all of them over 2,000 pages. You know what I mean? Like, "Oh, really?" And you're like, "Yeah, I've done the Wheel of Time." They're like, "Wow." It's almost like you're talking to a prison guard. Like, how long have you been in? What time have you spent to get into this? So you take all of those, every series I just mentioned, and Warhammer's bigger than all of those combined. There's more books, more pages, more graphic novels, more lore, more individual stories, because it hasn't just been written by one writer. It's been written by, well over 20 for well over 30 years. So it's only unaccessible because of the amount that you need to dive into.
And there's no clear place like you should start here.
No,
start here and then follow the series, because it jumps all over the place. It jumps like Primarchs, no Primarchs. Their Primarchs are coming back. No, they're not. It just jumps all over the place.
And that's just the lore, let alone the game.
Yeah.
I mean, like, to get into the game, you're looking to spend $80 to $90 at the most bare minimum just to show up and play at your normal game store. Now, the game is super rewarding, and once you own the miniatures and paint them, they're yours forever. You know what I mean? Like, so you can just keep on going back. But if your friend shows up and he has like this huge, amazing army and all these neat looking things, and they're all bespoke, there's a little bit of pay to win. There really is when it comes to the actual tabletop RPG aspect of it. Oh, that's cool. You have a lot of psychic powers on the table. Your friend has a little bit more money than you. It's like, I'm going to go negate that next time I play you. So we can go to the shop and pretty much undo you until you have enough money to go to the shop and figure out how to negate him. You're going to be stuck in a forever disadvantage of the war.
Mm-hmm.
So those are all the reasons that people don't get into it. And they call that like a gatekeeping. And I don't think that's true at all, because I think that it's a lot to start into. Like, I think that people get overwhelmed with the options, possibilities, factions, storylines. Like, you can read, like, for example, the Horus Heresy, and that would be the same size as Harry Potter, all of them. Just one small aspect of the story. Now, it's integral, but like, just to get the basics, the understanding, like, you're talking about reading something of the size of the entirety of Harry Potter. So I don't think it's inaccessible. It just takes a long time. But especially with like YouTube now, you have so many people that break down the stories, and you have so many people that are doing amazing audio reading. So even if you can't afford the audio narration, you can find someone on Facebook that has adapted it themselves and can really bring you into the story. And like, who is Horus? Who is, like, all these characters? And the reason that I got into it is because not just the size, I am a content hoarder. I love huge stories, but it's original. Yes, Tolkien is highly influenced by a lot of it, but I mean, what in fantasy isn't highly influenced by Tolkien? I mean, like, he is the grandfather for a reason. But when you actually get in through all the stories, you're going to find new pieces of lore and generation and story concepts. If you're a storyteller at all when it comes to tabletop RPGs, just a fan fiction writer or somebody that just wants to hear something that hasn't been told before, it's a whole new mythos. It really is. And it bleeds in between not just the Warhammer 40K, but it also starts with Age of Sigmar in the center and then Warhammer Fantasy on the other end as well. So you're never going to run out of content. I mean, I'm a huge fan, and I have never looked. There's never been a time been like, I wish you'd come up with something else. Like, there's always more stuff to go check out.
Yeah, and I was lucky enough to play the Warhammer Fantasy tabletop RPG game for a little while. The mechanics a lot like Call of Cthulhu. If you're curious about that, you think you're squishy as a level 1 D&D player. No, you got nothing on the early levels in the Warhammer RPG game. And the RPG game and the tabletop war game that Rob was talking about with the minis and buying armies and painting and all of that stuff are two very different things too.
Oh yeah.
So there's even different versions of tabletop games that you play. It's wild. It's huge.
Yeah, you can go and be any 3 types of nerds. You could be a nerd that just likes the lore. Like you can just get into it for the stories that they tell. You can get into it because you enjoy building incredible minis and painting them. Or you can get into it because you like the tabletop aspect of it. You want to go to a game shop and you want to play a tournament or any of that kind of stuff. Roll the game. There's books for all 3 different things. There's YouTube channels for all 3 different things. Now you can be a nerd for all 3 of them or just one. One part of the hobby doesn't supersede the other part of it. Also, I think it's one of the best examples of grim dark I've ever read, and that comes with wonderful gallows humor. It really is a depressive setting at the end of society when your best chance of defense is a demagogue that is a complete dictator that's taken over the world and says, my might makes right, and he is the good guy of this story. You know what I mean? Like, if that doesn't wrap up the entirety of the tragedy of everything, your worst person is one of your best. But within there's so much heroism because humanity can only prosper when it's faced with adversity. I mean, heroism only exists in the face of horrific events that precede it. And that's what you get constantly with Warhammer 40K. And you also get huge moral dilemmas within yourself. Sometimes you're going to be reading something and somebody is constantly forced within the gray. They don't have an opportunity not to be multifaceted as a character because there is no linear good guy. There is no linear bad guy. All the chaos gods that are completely evil, they're also reflections of the best parts of humanity, just corrupted. Like, for example, Slanesh can be complete excess and complete going into the absurdities of the human condition and wanting more. Think of it like a drug fiend almost. But she also represents self-perfection and wanting to work on yourself and be, the best you can possibly be. So that moral ambiguity in between all the chaos gods and all the factions and all the different Xenos, which would be their term for alien races around you, you get to essentially create your own story behind your own army and love who you like to do, because there's going to be heroes and villains in all the factions, with the except of, the Tyranids, because they're just brainless bugs. But other than that, talk about some Starship Troopers. But
right. Yeah. And a good place to, I know we've been talking about how hard it is to get involved in it because the lore and the information there's just massive amounts of it out there. But he's actually become a pretty good friend of ours. I think we can say that. We recommend jumping into Voldemort. He has a YouTube channel, and he really is a beginner's guide to Warhammer 40K. And Rob found him very early in his YouTube career, and we've been following him ever since.
There is some toxicity when it comes to the Warhammer community, but if you want to start off someplace completely safe, highly recommend Voldemort.
Absolutely.
But everything is just very fun, very warming. He does beginner's guides to everything. And once you start putting your toes in, I hate to say it, but you will get obsessed with all of it because there's just so many layers. You can just continuously walk through and also the things that you're interested in. Let's say that you like the Tech Mechanicus, which would be the robotic aspect of humanity. You can just hang out with the techs, read novels about the techs, get the tech army. If that big walkers, big mechs, big, like the ideas, the philosophies behind the cyber, like all of that, like they have a whole religion that they're into. And if you're not into any of that, you can go over to the orcs that are just hanging out and they're good old rough and tumble boys and huge comedy, and every single thing that you read of theirs is going to make you laugh, and it's all satirical and lampoonish. And then you can go to the Ultramarines, which would be like, hey, I actually like history. I want to know how this happened, what were the recourses of this war, and why did they do it in the first place? How many tanks? Read an Ultramarine, codex or manual or whatever have you. Because it's just, the breadth is so big, it's just so much information that you get to make Warhammer into your Warhammer.
The only thing I wanted to ask you this, and then we'll go ahead and head the show on out with some Marvel talk, is if somebody has to go ahead and choose, first off, which way would you lean them? Warhammer or Warhammer 40K?
I'd go Warhammer 40K right now, just because there's just so much more content creators. So to jump into it raw right now, starting from the beginning, I would go Warhammer 40K, just because there's going to be more people online already to help you through some of it, or recommend some of the right ways to go. If you want to do the painting of the minis, it's going to be almost exclusively Warhammer 40K. There's just a larger community for that right now.
Yeah, you can watch and you can paint minis along with Henry Cavill as well.
Yeah, right. So if you like Superman, you can paint an army with him if you want.
Yeah, he's pretty into Warhammer, so.
Very interesting thing. And maybe the fact that he might pop up in a TV series down the line, because he likes already doing video game related series. So there's been talk about him and Mass Effect. You never know, him and Warhammer could be a deal.
Man, for all the nerds at home, which if you're watching us, Pop Culture Cosmos, you probably are one of our family. Henry Cavill's the one that won. You got to be Gerald, man.
There you go. We'll see what happens there, but it is Warhammer and Warhammer 40K. The world is out there waiting for you. Are you ready to tackle it? And if you have any questions on Warhammer 40K, I can always get a hold of Rob. We can always go ahead and answer your questions on that. Please let us know. Is the Warhammer or Warhammer 40K universe right for you? Let us know. PopCultureCosmos@yahoo.com.
Thanks for checking out the PCC, the Pop Culture Cosmos. We'll be back in one moment.
If you're in the Las Vegas and Henderson areas and are looking to buy, sell, or trade the best in classic or current video games and pop culture collectibles, there's no better place to go than Retro City Games. From Xbox to PlayStation, Nintendo to Atari, the great crew at Retro City Games provides the best place to go for all your gaming options. Stop by their 2 awesome locations in Henderson and also the Las Vegas Strip, or follow Retro City Games on Facebook and Instagram for all the latest deals and new items. Without a doubt, there's no better place to go for your gaming needs than your friends at Retro City Games. Well, my friends, it's been great having you both on the show. As always, Melinda, I just tell you what, you were looking forward to a more impactful December coming up here in the next few weeks. And I cannot thank Robbie enough for stopping by on this week's program. And Melinda, like I said, there's more stuff coming up on the way, because then we get into Spider-Man. And now we get into Matrix Resurrections. And then we get into all the Christmas programming. And then we get into all the Oscar buzz that they're coming out as later this month. And then we get into the best and worst of 2021. So we're going to be talking more of that as the month ends. But before we head on out, wanted to throw some good news for 2021 that happened that you may have not expected. And one of those things I did not expect was that the Marvel television shows would be as well produced, well loved, well appreciated, and important to the MCU. I wasn't sure as far as how much Disney and Marvel would go ahead and put into it. But Melinda, first, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Your thoughts on the good news of 2021 being Marvel's turn to Disney Plus.
Yeah, they kind of set the standard, Marvel did, with their television shows lining up with their movies so well when they were doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think that kind of solidified the idea. I think there's a lot of expectation around that. And I think as long as they continue to deliver on that kind of premise, I think that Marvel television is going to do just fine.
But with the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you cannot say that it had any, even though it was on for several seasons, 7, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it still didn't earn that kind of, I got to watch it every week attitude. Whereas with the Marvel shows, it was the talk of pop culture each and every week. Even, with Hawkeye not doing as well, we still had an estimated 1.3 million viewers still watching it. Still, still something. It's the most popular show on Disney Plus. It's still something that Disney Plus viewers talk about, and it's something that pop culture we still talk about here every week. I didn't feel that same kind of buzz with either the Netflix shows or the shows that, with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Agent Carter, which I absolutely loved the first season of, and unfortunately fell off the tracks from there. And, obviously we know about the debacle known as the Inhumans. So, I mean, Marvel's track record on television hasn't been all that great, but their return to television on Disney Plus has been something no less than outstanding.
I think part of that has to do with connectivity. Like even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I enjoyed the show quite a lot, you would get Easter eggs. You wouldn't, like, watching the show didn't give you huge pieces of the information that would be relevant within the movie. It was always reactionary instead of actionary. Like they would do something cool on the movies and then it would show up as an Easter egg on the show instead of the other way around.
Well, what it did was it really drove home the importance of getting out to see the movie opening weekend, because the next episode of S.H.I.E.L.D. was going to have something in it that was going to give away at least a part of what that movie was. So I'm just trying to say that the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show kind of set the standard for the influence that the movies can have over TV and that the TV can have over the movies.
Yeah, but I think right now with the Disney Plus, you're getting more of the TV. Like you need to watch WandaVision to understand the new Doctor Strange that's coming up.
Right. That's what I mean. Like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. set all of that up.
Yeah. But instead of so I think we're agreeing on the same thing.
Yes.
But where the TV used to be reactionary, now it's like forward.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's probably one of the biggest differences. Probably one of the reasons they're spending so much money. I mean, like, how expensive was it to get that kind of talent to do an 8-part, 10-part, 12-part series? I mean, the money's there, the production's there, the writing has to be there, or you can't justify the price tag.
Contracts, baby.
Hey, right, that's Shaq.
Absolutely. But yes, I think it's something that has exceeded my expectations. Whether or not each and every episode has, that's a different story. It's about the expectations people have in watching it. It's about the expectations people have in talking about it. Feedback people have been giving the show. The thing that people are talking about is the fact that we're talking about Marvel on a weekly basis, emanating from, like we said before, WandaVision, that coming out and getting everybody's attention. Then you had Falcon and Winter Soldier. Yeah. That came out to a lot of interest. People were wondering what's going on with the U.S. agent as far as him going rogue and him going bad and doing things his own way and all that intrigue and story there. And obviously Sam Wilson's flight to become Captain America. That was just such a great storytelling device right there. Cannot appreciate enough the fact of what happened there and seeing how that's going to affect Captain America going forward in the future. Then you had Loki, which, again, depending on who you talk to, has set up the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe for this phase, or people cannot stand it for whatever reasons. But I'm going to tell you right now, I absolutely loved Loki, especially the ending of Loki. I just really think it was just something special. You had the What If shows that really got better as time went on, and really think that it culminated in a lot of questions that would love to be answered. We are actually getting an extra season of that, so we'll see what happens in season 2 of that. And then it's all culminating in Hawkeye, which to me, again, has exceeded and exceeded my expectations on the Hawkeye character and what it can do, and also introducing us to a whole array of characters that will be a major part of the future of the MCU. So I think that Disney Plus and Marvel deserves a great round of credit for what they've done for the Disney Plus series, because they've got us talking about the MCU and not just on the big screen. They've been able to do it. In fact, on a lot of occasions, people are talking more about what's coming on to Disney Plus with these Marvel shows than what's actually come on to the big screen with the Eternals, Shang-Chi, and also Black Widow.
Yep. Oh, the poor Eternals. They just didn't take enough time for themselves.
No, they didn't.
What are you going to do?
But for good news this year, it was Marvel on TV. It had Disney Plus and all the great shows that they had there. I'm looking forward to the future, because They've already announced several series along the way, and now this is going to be a regular part of Disney Plus, where hopefully you will see Star Wars and Marvel and hopefully other shows that are going to come along the way. We talked about Disney Plus. One of their issues is fresh content. Well, over the course of the next 12 to 18 months to 24 months, hopefully you will see much more new content, and the Marvel Universe will be part of it, telling the great stories that we hope will be told going forward in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But if you folks out there have any thoughts and opinions on the good news that was brought on by Disney and Marvel with the great Marvel shows that came to Disney Plus in WandaVision, Captain America, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, as it were, although it ended up Captain America and Winter Soldier, plus also as well Loki, What If, and now Hawkeye, please let us know. PopCultureCosmos@yahoo.com. Well, it's been a great episode. Cannot thank you enough, both of you, for stopping by. Any last thoughts, either of you two, on the way out?
Check out Voldemort, man. Free plug, honestly. The Sons of Dorne, by the way, came to me at the very end. Check that out, episode 1. If that doesn't make you fall in love with it, trust me, my husky voice is not gonna do it for you. So if that one doesn't do it, let's see what happens. But try it out.
Your husky voice. What about your husky voice every week on Vampires and Vitae? What are you two up to, and why should people care?
You can check us out, our beautiful faces, every single Sunday. Actually, the Pop Culture Cosmos, other than this one, when it comes to our tabletop RPGs, it's our only video casted show. We're very proud of that. Took a lot of work to get to that point. It is a highly narrative show. There is battle there, of course, but it's more
RPG.
It's more role playing throughout the entirety. This is going to be our second season. We have a brand new cast. Very excited. You can start off with season 2, episode 1. You don't have a lot to catch up with, so why don't you check us out? You can also get our fully curated podcast. It's going to be with musical beds, edits, and just a little.
I know Melinda does a lot of hard work with it.
Huge amounts. But you can catch that every single Friday. In fact, a lot of people actually prefer, still, even our Longcore fans, they'll watch us just to watch our stupid facial expressions on Twitch, and then they'll actually go back and listen to the actual curated podcast that drops every Friday.
Very nice indeed. And Melinda, I mean, any thoughts on Vampires and Vitae? I mean, obviously you and Rob seem to have a great time, plus the cast seems to have a great time in doing it.
Yes, definitely. And all of the characters, I can say this because I helped everybody but Tyler create their characters. All of the characters have very saucy secrets that will come out over the period of the season. So, and some secrets are bigger than others. Some secrets are huge.
There you go, indeed. All right. Well, look out for it. It is Vampires and Vitae, wherever you get your podcast, the fully curated versions that Melinda works a lot on, and also as well, yes, got to go ahead and just catch that. So if you can, please go ahead and check out Vampires and Vitae. Please, it's worth the listen. Or if you want to watch it and you want to watch them in full, 720, 1080, whatever kind of.
I think we're 720. Yeah, I don't think my processor can handle 1080 yet.
Okay, it'll probably choke. It'll probably choke on 4K. It'll chug. Yes, on 4K. Right, yeah. But yeah, if you want to go ahead and check them out in beautiful living color, please check them out every Sunday, right there for you, Sunday afternoon, right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook, or you can catch their previous episodes right now in the video section.
Absolutely. And the story that comes out of this man's brain is pretty rad. So check it out.
I do things every once in a while.
There you go indeed. But please check it out, Vampires and Vitae. It's there for you right now, Pop Culture Cosmos, and wherever you get your podcasts. Well, you two, it's been amazing having you on the show. I look forward, Melinda, having you back on. Obviously, sitting back in the hot seat. Rob, you're always welcome to join in. The red carpet's open for you.
So. All I do is look up nerd news, so I think I'm going to be okay if I want to sit down. That's for sure.
Well, there you go. So, yes, you're always welcome back anytime you want to sit in with us here in the multiverse. Remember, we've got a Monday show coming up. Josh and I will be in the hot seat where we'll be talking about some good things, including Halo Infinite is on the way. It's due to drop the campaign part of it next week, so we'll talk about that. Plus also Jeff Sloboda from the MCU's Bleeding Edge. I was on his show this week talking Hawkeye. He's going to be talking on the Monday show about Hawkeye, plus also his expectations for Spider-Man No Way Home. And there's an 80s property truly 80s property, which has been revived.
Oh, no.
And the story has been told. The story has been extended. A sequel, a long-awaited sequel to an 80s movie. I'm not going to say hit movie, but an 80s cult movie is now in. Actually, it's out. It's out. It's out in the story form. It's out in the novel form. I didn't even know it existed. Something that I didn't even remember. Something that I remember watching the movie at the time and thinking, oh, okay, there's supposed to be a sequel, and it never came out. Well, lo and behold, almost 40 years later, it came out. And I'll tell you what that is.
Is it the never-ending story?
Not quite indeed, but I will tell you what that is. It's an 80s iconic cult movie. So we'll go ahead and talk about the book sequel, which has finally come out after all these years, coming up on Monday at the Pop Culture Cosmos. So for Robbie Ross and Melinda Barkhouse, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.
Star Trek is a vision.
Great storytelling.
My favorite TV show of all time.
I really love it, and it's so much fun.
Join our crew aboard Earth Station Trek for your regular podcast escape into the Trekverse.
Make it so.
Let's see what's out there.
Wait a minute. I thought we all agreed to say make it so.
No, let's go is fun.
But make it so is iconic. It's classic.
It's too iconic.
So we're all going to do make it so?
No.
You're listening to a Weeby Geeks Network podcast.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Tangent Bound Network. Let your voice be heard. TangentBoundNetwork.com.
Thanks so much for downloading the Pop Culture Cosmos, and stay tuned as more great podcasts are on the way. Thanks again for listening to us here at the Pop Culture Cosmos.